Hey everybody, welcome to the GMG review. Today we're taking a look at Warhammer the Old World Arcane Journal, Dwarven Mountain Holds, Dwarfen Mountain Holds. This is a near and dear one to my heart, obviously, as my Dwarf army is one of my favorite all-time collections of Warhammer miniatures. And what we get in here is two different alternate armies of infamy. We get a Dwarf Royal Court, as well as an Expeditionary Force focusing on engineers and slayers, as well as basically a greatest hits of returning miniature profiles for everything from the Storm of Chaos Goblin Hewer and Doom Seekers to old characters like Burlock Damonson and of course Ungrim Iron Fist, the Slayer King, sorry. So if you have some classic old dwarf miniatures in your collection or are interested in buying some new plastic ones, which are resculpts of some old favorites, you will have some stuff for you in this book. You also get a nice little overview of basically the different dwarven holds of the time period, what their sort of politics are, their guilds. It's not super expansive, I'll be honest, like the 6th edition Warhammer Dwarf book and or the 5th edition Warhammer Dwarf book had tons more character than this does, but it's not bad. Like, it gives you a Cole's notes, basically, of the time period and things going on in the Dwarven nations, as well as a bespoke storming of Khazad Vosk, asymmetrical mission to play in Warhammer the Old World. Lots of cool returning miniatures, such as the classic dwarf, well, classic-ish dwarf warrior models, of course, coming back, old metal slayers, the original metal flame cannon, the Goblin Hewer, and a few other sort of like neato, I guess like return to form things. I'm excited-ish about the new dwarf models. They fit okay with the dwarf models from the 8th edition launch. So things like the Iron Drakes, the Hammers, and the Iron Breakers, it kind of goes with, but it does look a bit streamlined and differently. It's more AOS scaled, I guess, than the Dwarf Warrior models. It doesn't fit in super well with them, but still a nice sculpt and a cool miniature, of course, on shield bearers. And just nice to see a new dwarf model. There's a new Ungrim Iron Fist as well, who's, I don't know, I like the old one better. He's fine. He doesn't have his back banner, which I don't love. He's fine. He's fine. They just have AOS-itis. They don't super fit the old aesthetic as well. And while they are cool miniatures and a lot more like anatomically correct, they're missing the Warhammeriness of it. They're missing the aesthetic of the older miniatures, like the old Slayers and stuff with their big hands. You can see here, like, just the scale, for instance, of the non-heroic sculpted hands there. Yeah, they're aesthetically cooler for, like, today's miniatures, but I feel if you're doing something for Warhammer the Old World, you should make it fit with the old stuff. You should do an older style of sculpting to have it go with these new miniatures. So let's talk about the rules. We got the Dwarfen Mountain Holds Royal Clan. Some cool variations here. You gotta take a King or a Thane, obviously, because it's the Royal Court. You can have an Anvil of Doom or Rune Lord per 1,000 points. You get access to Royal Clan Warriors, which are basically, what's cool is in these profiles, and I'll go through each one as we talk about them, they give you some conversion notes on what to do. It just says take the take the hands and axes and shields of like the Longbeards and use the bodies of the Hammerers and make that your models. So you get some like stuff to kind of like convert them out with. And they're just like super infantry, 10 points. The Dwarf Warriors, stat line wise. So like weapons go 4, strength 3 toughness 4. But because they have the Ancestral Fury rule, as long as they go at least 3 inches during a charge, they get +1 strength. They do have Gromrule Great Axes and upgrade though, which is pretty cool. For 1 point per model, you can get +2 strength. -3 AP, requires 2 hands and strikes last, so some awesome great weapons. Yeah, representing this unit in your games. Royal Clan Warriors represented using hammer models with a mix of hand weapons and shields, and or 2-handed axes rather than the customary great hammers. And of course, they can get like drilled, veteran, and stubborn. So they're better Longbeards, sort of. they're almost like taking a super unit. They can also have Talismanic Runes, which is kind of cool. On their standard, of course, for a core choice. You can get as many as you want. You also have Longbeards and Quarrelers. Specialers, you can have Hammers and Dwarf Carts, which I'm so excited is back. We have access to the Pony Cart, basically, from Skull Pass. I don't know if they're going to make this available again. If they make the Skull Pass doors available, that'd be awesome. But it could be a Bugman's Cart or a Miner Cart. The Bugman's Cart gives you, during the command subphase of the turn, any dwarf unit that's not fleeing or engaged within 6 of a friendly Miner's Cart gets +1 of their movement characteristic until the end of the turn, because you're drunk. And the Miner's Cart Any dwarf unit within 3 of a friendly miners cart that's not fleeing or engaged in combat can stand and shoot. Additionally, and use blasting charges from the Force of Fantasy. If it loses its last movement on 4+, it explodes, and everything within 3 inches suffers D6 strength 3 hits with an AP -1 in flaming, which is very funny. Any army that includes Dwarf Mountain Hold's Grand Army composition list can include 0 to 4 dwarf carts as rare choices. They can be rare, but they're special in the Royal Clan. They can also be taken in the other list too. And then you can also have 0 to 3 war machines per 1,000 points from bolt throwers and grudge throwers, but no like black powder stuff, which is kind of an interesting change. 25% rare on Rangers, Iron Breakers, and Iron Drakes. And then 25% of your points can be taken as Doom Seekers, which is pretty cool. You can have those. Goblin Hewer and Imperial Dwarf Mercenaries. Now that's a blast from the past. Basically, it's to use all your like maraudite, your like old 4th and 3rd edition dwarf models. So dwarves with spears, like basically back when you had Empire miniatures that were dwarves, there's now rules for them as mercenaries, which is kind of cool. And then you can also have riches and heirlooms. Character models in this army can spend 25 additional points on runes. In addition, any unit that can take runes gets 25 extra points, but the Royal Clan Warriors already have it incorporated. And then striking a grudge after deployment, but before the first turn begins, nominate a single enemy character. For one reason or another, this character is in the grudge book. All friendly models hate him, and they get a bonus of 75 victory points if they're slain or are fled at the end of the game. So it's a neat list, obviously restricted from like a lot of black powder stuff. You can have quarrelers, but longbeards and Royal Clan stuff, and then bolt throwers and grudge throwers. But your only black powder really is the Iron Drakes. And then you can have access to some of the cool rare stuff too. So a slightly restricted amount of stuff, but you get really good core infantry. So it's like a heavy elite infantry style army. And then plus restricting the charge, which is super nice. Gives you a bit of an improvement to wound. And with those great axes, wow, that's a strength 6 on the charge attack. Expeditionary Force. This has to have an engineer or engineer sapper, which is a new character type leading it. The engineer sapper is he's like a hero choice. He's weapon skill 4 plus skill 5, strength toughness 4 with 2 wounds. He's initiative 2 with 2 attacks, leadership 9, 70 points. So he's like a baby engineer. Hand open and heavy armor. Dig in. During any command subphase, if they're not engaged in combat, this character can attempt to lead their unit in digging some field works. They make a leadership test, and if it's passed, this character in any unit that they've joined becomes entrenched. You get the entrenchment piece from Skull Pass as well. I love that this list just incorporates every dwarf player's collection from Skull Pass. An entrenched unit is considered to be behind partial color and a low defended obstacle. If it moves for any reason, it's no longer entrenched. And then hostile terrain, any enemy model that ends its movement within command range of 1 or more characters of the special rule must make a dangerous terrain test. Basically, he lays mines. And then he's got Dwarf Crafted, Grommer Oliver, Hate Orcs and Goblins, Magic Resistance, -1, Resolute and Stubborn. You can give him just like the usual engineer stuff, guns. You can get Demon Slayer and Dragon Slayer and Thanes and Runesmiths. And then 25% of your army has to be spent on Dwarf Warriors, Thunderers, and Dwarf Carts. You get Dwarf Carts as core, which I think is really cool. So think about like a movement for a Dwarf army. And you can have Thunderers, obviously. You can have your black powder here too. You can have 1 unit of Rangers and 1 unit of Scout Gyrocopters. This is a unit of 3 Gyrocopters. And again, they give you like conversion instructions for it. You assemble to use the canards from the tail of the gyro bomber in place of the usual ones with bombs, and with a clatter gun in place of the steam gun. And it's a monstrous cav. They're, toughness 4 instead of toughness 5, 60 points each. And they're units of 1 to 2. They have a 3-inch skirmish coherency, and their clatter gun is the usual range 24, strength 4, AP -1, multiple shots D6. And has extended formation. So it's cool. Like, I love that it's got like a core choice of you can have these gyrocopters. A Beard Force 1 will fly again. And then for special, you can have miners, Scout Gyrocopters, and Gyrocopters. Miners are actually going to get some subterranean assault rules in here too, which is worth taking them. And I could very easily run this list with my collection actually. And then for your 0 to 3 war machines, you can have a bolt thrower, grudge thrower, or cannon. Rare, it's gyro bombers, up to 1 unit of slayers, up to 2 units from either organ guns or flame cannons. And then mercenaries, you can have up to 2 doom seekers, a goblin hewer, and imperial dwarves. For your special rules, you get expeditionary marksmen. So 0 to 1 unit of thunderers per 1,000 points can be upgraded to expeditionary marksmen. They ignore the penalty for moving and shooting, and your dwarf engineers can be upgraded with it as well for 10 points. Function over form, you can have any cannons, organ guns, or flame cannons have -1 of their toughness and lose the move or fire special rule. So you can move and fire your flame cannons, organ guns, and cannons, but have them be, I think, tough to 6. And then subterranean ambush, you get to place 2 markers, 232 markers. They can't be placed in the enemy's deployment zone within 12 of another friendly mine marker, 6 of an enemy unit, or 3 of a special feature objective marker. But when unit miners arrive from reserves, they can be placed anywhere in the battlefield within 6 of a mine marker, but not within 6 of the enemy. The unit cannot charge and counts as having moved. But otherwise it can act as normal. So you get these, like, you get your deep striking, basically. So again, a really cool army. It's themed. You're going to lean into different types of units. Basically, it splits the core list in half and says this side has the black powder and the engineers and stuff like that. This side has the heavy infantry and the cool, like, fighty characters. Both can have access to the slayers and the mercenaries. I think it's fun. Like, it's just a way of theming your little army and getting a sort of like extra set of special rules out of your collection. And like the moving and shooting with all your guns can be kind of legit. Again, these lists are not necessarily good, good game-wise. They're just neat and different. We get some special characters. We get Thorgrim Ulriksson. He's like I think he's supposed to be the plastic Dane on foot. He's neat. Like, he's on a grudge stone. He's got a grudge lore. Once Thorgrim has set the grudge stone, both he and any unit he's joined replaces hatred orcs and goblins with hatred everybody. And then during any start turn of the subphase, he can set the grudge stone. Once set, him and any unit he's joined gain unbreakable and automatically pass any panic tests. However, they cannot move. I can't choose to flee as a charge reaction and cannot move other than to give ground or make fall up rooms and reform. So they're just stuck there for the rest of the game. It lets you use your grudge stone, basically. His armor of Scalder, it's heavy armor with a 4+ ward against killing blow or any wounds suffered that were caused by an attack with multiple wounds. And then his axe is Grudge Settler. It's combat, strength +2, -1 AP, armor bane 1 magic attack. And it's inscribed with the master of smiting and room of parrying. So he's a cool, like, kind of generic dwarf king. And then you get Ungrim. He's back, baby. Weapon skill 9. Yeah, he is. He's strength 4 up to 6. 3 wounds, initiative 5. He's got his cool crown, which gives him a 5+ ward save and 5+ armor. He's a slayer. When making a model roll to wound, it's always going to wound on a 4+. His axe is strength +2, -3 AP, magic attack, monster slayer. And then his, like, just taking him lets you take a Slayer army. So basically, they didn't need to make the Slayer army of infantry because they just made Ungrim instead. And so you can have Demon Slayers and Dragon Slayers can take as character choices, and 0 to 1 unit of Slayers per 1,000 points can be taken as a core choice. 0 to 4 Doom Seekers per 1,000 points can be taken as special choices. So you get 2 units of Slayers, that's your core. 4 Doom Seekers, a special, and then he's taken as general of a Royal Clan army, basically. That changes that army around. All the other stuff still applies. Which means +1 strength in the charge and everything else. Burlock Damonson's back. He had a robot arm at one point. Now he's just the steamy guy from the end times. So he's got his prepared positions. During deployment, you can entrench a single non-character model whose troop type is War Machine and a single unit of Quarrelers or Thunderers, and they count the same as entrenched in the Engineers Army list, the Expeditionary Army list. He's got his rangefinder optics. Unless Burlock is engaged or fleeing in combat, once per turn during the shooting phase, a friendly unit of Quarrelers, Thunderers, or Dwarf War Machine that is within his command range can either reroll any to hit rolls of 1 or reroll a single artillery dice. It's kind of like the old engineer rule. And then Stand Back Chief, a character with the special rule cannot be targeted by enemy shooting or by enemy spells if they're within 3 of a friendly unit whose type is War Machine. He's just immune. And he's got his Furnace Hammer. It's strength. Before Burlock makes an attack with this weapon, roll an artillery die to see what the strength is. So it could be strength 10. And if it's a misfire, he loses a wound. But it's -2 AP with flaming attacks. And then his Rivet Gun with a 10-inch range. Strength 3, -2 AP, and armor bane 1. If the roll hit successful, it causes D3 hits on a target enemy unit rather than just 1 hit. So he's a cool little, like, support character for 85 points. We already saw the Sappers. Doom Seekers, they do impact hits, D3+1. They're just Slayers, basically, with Death Blow, Doom Seeker, First to the Fray. Ground Weapons, Hatred, Orcs and Goblins, Immune Psychology, D3+1 impact hits, Loner, Magic Resistance -2. Random attacks, Resolute, Unbreakable, Vanguard, and Whirlwind to Death. They get +D3 to their charge, and their maximum range is extended. Doomseeker. At the end of a battle, a Doomseeker has been slain, is worth no victory points. However, if they're still alive, the enemy player wins a bonus number of victory points equal to 100% of its point cost. So basically, you have to have them die. And they're worth victory points to your opponent if they live, which is very funny. And then Whirlwind of Death. Impact hits caused by this model resolve using the profile of its whirling blades. In addition, when this model makes a roll to wound, a roll of 4+ is always a success because they're Slayers. And they can be taken as Dogs of War in a Dwarven Mountain Hold and Empire Man army. So you can have up to 0 to 3 of them. So you can just make your own Doomseekers. Honestly, I think Doomseekers are going to be very popular because they're 50 points. And they're just these little careening, rare psychopaths that you have to kill or you're, you want to die and they're not worth anything. I think 3 Doomseekers is going to be a very popular option. And then let's talk about the Imperial Dwarf Mercenaries. They're just standard clansmen, basically, 8-point dwarf warriors, but they have tons of different options. Great weapons, thrusting spears, crossbows, or handguns. You can take them in like an Empire army and stuff too. And then upgrade a model to a veteran champion. They can have shields, heavy armor, and then the 1 per 1,000 points can be drilled, veteran, and purchase standard up to 50 points. And then 0 to 1 unit of them can be taken in Dwarven Mountain Holds and Empires of Man too. I love that these old miniatures have rules again. It just makes me really happy that you can have dwarves with spears. I don't know why. And that's really it. Oh, sorry, and the Goblin Hero. Sorry, we didn't go through the Goblin Hero. Yeah, it's the Goblin Hero. It's madness. It's crewed by Slayers, which is very funny. It can have 50 points of engineering runes. It's got a 36-inch range, strength 4, -1 AP, armor bane 1, cumbersome, mover shoot, and whirlwind of doom. Whirlwind of doom is with a single salvo of spinning axes, it can cut through ranks of troops. When shooting a Goblin Hero, roll an artillery dice before making any rolls to hit. The number of shots fired is equal to the artillery dice, plus a D3 modifier. Per rank, if the Goblin Hero lies in the unit's front or rear arc, and per file if it's in the flank. So basically, you're going to have a D3 modifier. If you're 4 deep, it would be 4D3 plus an artillery dice in attacks. However, misfire is rolled in the artillery dice, no shots are fired, and a critical fault has been occurred. Roll immediately on the appropriate misfire chart to see what exactly happened. And then innovative engineers, any army that includes Dwarf Mountain Hordes, Grand Army composition list that includes 1 or more Slayers of Legend can include 0 to 1 Goblin Hero per 1,000 points is a rare choice. So if you take a Goblin Hero, you take a Goblin Slayer, a Slayer Hero, or a Slayer of Legend, then you get to take a Goblin Hero too. So it just kind of comes along. And then we got some new runic tattoos for our Doom Seekers, Demon Slayers, and Dragon Slayers. You can have 3 for a Doom Seeker, 2 for a Demon Slayer, and 1 for a Dragon Slayer. I love that Doom Seekers can have 3 because you can make them very expensive. Rune of the Dishonored, it's for Demon and Dragon Slayers only. Once a model with this rune is reduced its last wound, it has a 3+ ward save. However, until the end of the battle, a model with this rune it has been slain is worth no victory points. If it's still alive, the enemy player wins a bonus victory points equal to 100%. So for 50 points, it has a 3+ ward, but you want it to die still because you lose your victory points if he's still alive. Rune of Endless Battle. During the combat phase of any turn in which a model with this runic tattoo charged, every attack it makes that causes an unsafe wound allows it to immediately make 1 additional attack. So you get to double down your attacks. And then I think note the additional attacks caused do not, additional attacks caused by unsafe wounds and the ones done by impact hits do not benefit from this rule. So you don't get to infinitely old 3rd edition 40k Bayaroth and just attack forever. Rune of the Reckless. A model of this rune tattoo gains Frenzy and during combat has a +1 modifier to the rolls to hit. However, any models that target this model during the combat phase have a +1 modifier to hit them back. Rune of the Hateful. You get hatred all enemies. Rune of Grit, +1 toughness. Rune of the Dauntless. The model of this rune tattoo must issue and accept any challenges, but can reroll failed rolls to hit during a challenge. Rune of Wrath, +1 attack. Warrior's Rune, +1 to your weapon skill. And then Rune of Blazing Fury, you get flaming attacks for 5 points. And then you can put some Engineer's runes on too. The Master Rune of Slaying, when making a roll to wound against an enemy whose troop type is Behemoth, with a weapon inscribed with this, roll 3+ always succeeds, regardless of toughness. And in addition, you get multiple wounds D3. Very handy if you want to inscribe that on the Goblin Hero and just shoot an artillery dice plus D3 worth of shots at it with multiple wounds D3 that always wound on 3+. That is a horrifying thing to take on giants and stuff. Master Rune of Piercing for 40 points. A weapon inscribed with this rune has a +1 modifier to strength. In addition, a weapon inscribed with this rune shoots like a bolt thrower, using through and through. And then Master Rune of Bursting Flame. If this roll to hit successful, a weapon inscribed with this rune causes 2d3 hits in the target unit rather than a single one. That one is very neat too because it explodes. Rune of Concussive Force. A unit hit with an attack with this weapon inscribed with this rune gains the Stupidity special roll until the start of your next turn. Now, Rune of Accuracy, no modifiers to hit, no negative modifiers to hit. Rune of Rapid Fire, you get multiple shots too and quick shots. Rune of Molten Steel, rune with this weapon gains flaming attacks. And then Enchanted Runes, a weapon with this rune gains Rune of Magical Attacks. And sorry, these following weapon runes can only be put on a crossbow or handgun. You can't put the Master Rune of Slaying on a Goblin Hero. It'd be fun if you could, though. I guess technically it's a type of axe. It's just very funny. It immediately popped in my mind. I was like, no, wait a minute, this is just for guns. So yeah, it's a neat book. I think what I liked about this the most was that it was a greatest hits. It's a lot of classic dwarf miniatures that are already in my collection, coming back. being sort of like brought out of slumber to take on the world again. And I think that's really cool. They are hopefully going to be available through made to order, especially things like the Goblin Hewer and the Doomseekers. And I mean, they will be made available, I'm sure, because they're in the book. But the continuing availability hopefully will be maintained, because I think they're a lot of fun. And they just give you lots of options for the 3 main lists, as well as new ways to play the core list too, with the Royal Clan and the Expeditionary Force. So neat stuff. Again, I'm not a huge fan of the new plastics, especially Ungrim. I love the old Ungrim. I wish they just brought back maybe his mold's gone. They might not be able to, but the old Ungrim is a classic dwarf miniature. And while the Dwarf King with Shield Bearers it's a very slick miniature, it just, I don't know, doesn't fit the old dwarf aesthetic as well, and it kind of stands out as being too modern. Book itself, though, written with a lot of love, and you can tell they thought through what to include, because the dwarves are long-lived, so obviously a lot of the characters are still in this timeline, which is kind of neat, and give you an excuse to play some of these classic armies. So there it is, Warhammer: The Old World Dwarfen Mountain Holds from Workshop. Big thanks for watching. We'll see you for more GMG reviews. Till then, I'm Ash. Happy wargaming.